Good morning from my side as well. I would like to actually start with saying that yesterday even I came really little late, so quite late at night. Within 1 hour I had wonderful meals and I had opportunity to dance local dancing, and for me it was unforgettable, and I would like to thank you for this experience. I won't forget. Hopefully you won't forget my presentation as well. I would like to thank you for inviting me because, to be honest, issue that you are dealing with is because of the fact that I'm from the city of Brno, that is really far away from mountains, quite far away from my scope. But on the other hand, urban-rural linkages are, I would say, general issue that we that have some similarities, and we can learn from each other, and we can inspire ourselves. So thank you for inviting me on behalf of City of Brno and Eurocities, which is the association of cities throughout the European Union, and I'm a co-chair of Metropolitan Areas Working Group. For, I hope, a few of you who hasn't heard anything about Brno so far, I would like to say a few important topics or issues that are connected with the city of Brno. So you can see city is the second largest city in the Czech Republic. I think all of you are familiar with Prague, so if you would have some time to explore our country, please visit Brno. We have quite a lot to offer. We are student cities with more than 60,000 university students. We are the capital of justice system of the Czech Republic, of trade fairs. We have UNESCO site, which is Villa Tugendhat, that is a modern villa built in 30s last century, and it's a unique example of functionalism next to other villas, but this one is the most important. I think the local economy has completely changed after the Velvet Revolution. It's already 35 years ago. We had partly collapse of traditional economy. We had to find a new industry sectors that we would then support. We were quite active in attracting investors, but currently when you go to the city of Brno, you hear a lot of foreign languages because there are a lot of people working, for example, in the IT sector, and these people are creating a very interesting spirit of the city, which is multicultural, at least much more multicultural than it was, for example, 20 years ago when I came to city of Brno to work there. There is a location of the city that you can see. We have quite close vicinity of 3 other capitals of Europe, including Prague, Vienna, and Bratislava. So it was very briefly about my city, and now I would like to come back to Eurocities' work and to urban languages, because that's issue that we were discussing within our working group for a few months, and we decided to produce a publication which is called Connecting Territories, Urban-Rural Cooperation at the Metropolitan Level. For us, for me and my co-chair, who is Peter Austin from City of Oslo, we decided actually to collect some case studies to show that urban-rural or rural-urban cooperation is existing, and we wanted to highlight that there is a huge variety in the forms and topics of this cooperation. Of course, and you know it from your own work, it's important not only to produce a publication, but do some dissemination work. So we started in Brussels. It's the capital of European Union, that's why we started there. But then we actually asked all the participants of our working group to make a dissemination work in their own territories. We have this publication online, so if you would be interested in content, in more details, of course, feel free to go through this link. These rural-urban linkages are crucial in way of understanding how metropolitan areas agglomeration are working or should work. We know that actually already Lisbon Treaty introduced the territorial cohesion. So before we had only the economic and social cohesion, but then actually it's almost 20 years ago the European Commission introduced this territorial dimension, territorial cohesion, as a third element of cohesion. And for us, I would say regions and municipalities, it was the time that we started to think of being seen and heard in greater extent. That time we decided actually, for example, in the Czech Republic, to implement more instruments through local action groups. So already there, already almost 20 years ago, 24 years ago. We wanted to highlight interdependency of these two elements, so rural areas and urban areas. And we wanted to highlight at the same time the fact that cities are not an isolated islands, and municipalities around are not isolated islands, because actually there are services or resources or planning issues that are in common, that should be seen from both perspectives. When we look at the dependency that is there, I would like to stress at least these four elements that you can see at the slide. First of all, there are job services and innovation capacity that is concentrated in cities, but at the same time, and for me, please trust me, because I'm coming from a small village, of course there are innovations and great potential in rural areas as well. But you have to look at the scale, you have to look at the manner of these innovations. 50% of rural population lives close to the city and are using the cities for their needs, but at the same time, the rural areas around the cities have material resources, and there is a huge challenge regarding accessibility. Of course, you can say there are a lot of other topics that we have to look at. We have to take care of social cohesion. Of course, we have a challenge of aging, of course, but for me, the accessibility, and it can be seen not only in a mobility way of thinking, is the key. And of course, when we look at the development of these areas, these functional areas, in my opinion, it's really important to provide capacities of metropolitan areas to ensure the transition that would be just. We are convinced that rural-urban cooperation can really help to achieve the objectives of the urban Green Deal, and at the same time can promote a green, digital and just transition in all EU territories. What is the key element? In our opinion, the key element is to build trust, because there are polarization tendencies, and these tendencies have to be recognized, and all the stereotypes have to be dismantled. Because when we look at the election, for example, you can see differences, I would say, in most of European countries when we look at the results. And for me, the key element that we as a civil servants can do is actually to create place-based policies, to cooperate with surrounding municipalities on the functional region, on the area, in the area of functional region, and of course to address specific challenges that rural areas around cities can have. And of course, civil servants are not politicians, so second task for us is actually to create awareness about these interdependencies and about these issues among politicians as well. I don't know, because I don't know from how many countries you are here, but of course there is some structure of public sector, and in all cases you have nuts-free lever and then you have municipalities. And for us in the city of Brno, it's natural to cooperate with the region, to have joint working groups in terms of strategic planning, in terms of some spatial perspective or spatial planning documents, and mobility planning documents as well, for example. Of course, this trust is not a thing that would occur on one day. It's a long-term process, and for building a trust, the long-term communication is essential. And of course, as I have spoken about the politicians at the regional and local level, at the same time, I would like to stress the need of recognition of the need of rural-urban cooperation at EU level as well, and national levels. Within the publication, we presented 12 case studies. You can find a lot of different projects, but we asked our members to provide us with their concrete examples in terms of initiatives or in terms of projects. So here you can see the list of them. We had very nice distribution of case studies from the, let's say, new EU member countries to the older ones, including Italy or Spain. We structurized our work according to three different topics. As I have already mentioned, we have a level of planning, strategic planning, and for this field I have detailed information about our approach, ITI approach that we are implementing already for the second EU program period in the city of Brno and Brno metropolitan area. But at the same time, we had very nice example of Bratislava region, which is the capital of Slovakia. And actually, they faced the situation that a lot of Slovak people moved from Bratislava to the mainly Austrian part, because it's actually nearer for them to commute to the center of Bratislava than from the suburban area of Bratislava, because you have to look at the map and see that actually Bratislava is in the corner on border on Austria and in the south on Hungary. So for them it was important to provide, for example, a joint bus line, or to provide information for Slovak newcomers to Austrian villages. And it was actually the basis for some other initiatives that made actually the life, let's say, more comfortable for people in this border region on the Austrian side. Then we had examples of services in rural and urban areas, for example, e-health initiative in the city of Turin and in some municipalities in their metropolitan area, or mobility project, example from city of Katowice and Gornoslezská Zabliogorska metropolitan area, which is that are actually making joint transport system combining concrete metropolitan bus lines and tram lines in order to improve the intermobility within the huge metropolitan area of Poland. In Bergen, in Norway, they are working in big data and are using big data for shaping public services, especially with the focus on young people and children, teenager, I would say. And this is very good example how digitalization can help to provide services in a more efficient way, and at the same time, how it can work regardless administrative borders. In Helsinki, there is a nice example of Living Lab. Living Lab that is actually testing the concrete, smart solutions within the territory of Helsinki and its metropolitan region. So these four are examples of services in rural, urban, or urban, rural that are in a form of initiatives of projects. A third dimension is production and distribution of resources, because as I have already stated, resources is something that actually there is a clear interdependency of both rural and urban areas. So there is a nice example of Bordeaux and Grenoble from France, dealing with circular economy, especially in food strategies or food distribution. That is something that when I can compare the approaches of different cities and metropolitan areas, very high on agenda in some countries, including France, Italy, Spain, Norway. But in the Czech Republic, for example, we are really at the beginning. We don't know any working initiative in this manner, and in this kind, actually, we would like to be the first and show how it can be realized in our circumstances, in our context, to other Czech and even Slovak cities. And for us to see this example is very nice inspiration as well. Energy cooperation within energy sector is well developed in Oslo region, so it's one more example from this very, let's say, current and important development topic. Again, there is a food project or food consumption and strategy project here in Barcelona, connected with agriculture. Sustainable tourism in Florence is an issue that they are actually sharing with their metropolitan area in order to attract people not only to visit Florence, but at the same time the areas around, to make a tourism, especially in Florence, more sustainable. And last project that we are presenting in our publication is from Milan and is dealing with green infrastructure. When we look at all these examples, I have to say that actually, of course, we can have, for example, a good example from the area of housing. I would wish to have one of them, but within our members, we didn't find any working solution that can be then adapted by other metropolitan area. Hopefully, in the future, we will have as well in this field some success. But for time being, now we have these case studies. If you are interested in knowing more, please feel free to use the link. What we learned through all this work, because it's not only about the connection of case studies, but of course it's about drawing some conclusions, as it's actually on agenda of your conference as well. And we learned quite a lot of things. So to sum it up, there is a need to regain trust. There is a need for financial tools. We should be quite innovative in combining on financial resources. Maybe we can use Solidarity Fund for this kind of activities. Of course, we should involve all stakeholders, because there are institutional limits, and that's why we have to actually broaden our horizon or our scope. There is a need to balance different views. Of course, there are still different views from rural areas and for urban areas, and in urban areas for the level of city districts, for example. But without having this ways for or platforms for joint projects, cooperation, discussion, you can't achieve better balancing. And of course, transportation is a key, as I have already presented. We draw some recommendations towards EU, what EU can do. So EU measures are summarized on this slide. So it's strengthening and widening the scope of ITI finance programs. That's why I have second part of my keynote, because I would like to present you ITI approach, which is in our case the instrument for metropolitan areas and agglomerations. But of course I can imagine to use the spirit of ITI instrument in mountainous areas as well, for example. Coordinating funding streams between rural and urban targeted programs. Now we are actually in the phase of preparing for discussions towards next EU programming period. So exactly today, it's the day that, or time that you can work together and prepare some recommendations, some statements that you would then present at regional, national, or even EU level. We have already started in this, doing this task. TNT as a very important element of mobility is a very important instrument and approach. So we would like EU to make or to continue with applying TNT, and we wanted to have dedicated partnership in urban agenda for the EU that we have already partly achieved. So in my opinion, it's about funding, but not only, because when you look at the partnerships, EU urban agenda partnerships, there are three different elements. Funding, financing is one of them, but at the same time, there is a regulation. So look at the regulation. So what are actually the things that are somehow blocking you or preventing you from doing something? And the third element is actually best practice. So how to collect best practice in the best way and to make dissemination process more effective. One more element that was important for our work was actually reaction or statement towards Rural Vision 2040. I know that it was actually part of your discussions, and unfortunately it was not possible for me to be here already for the beginning of this summit, this conference. But at least we produced these key messages that you can read. But what is the most important is actually that we, metropolitan areas and agglomeration, don't see Rural Vision 2040 and Rural Action Plan as a problem or as a challenge. For me and for us, it's a window of opportunities. Even within our working group meetings, we invited people from DG Agri and from DG Regio to present us actually Rural Vision 2040, and we discussed the ways how we can cooperate in implementing of Rural Vision 2040. Last comment I would have is actually that for us, the crucial is promoting of new ways or forms of cooperation. And for example, working with the EU urban agenda or within the implementation of Rural Vision is one of these good opportunities. And now I would like to share with you some experience with integrated territorial investments. As I have already said, in our case, in the Czech Republic, this approach is used for metropolitan areas and agglomerations. But I remember the discussions we had with the Ministry 11 years ago, when we saw the first draft of regulations, and there was something about integrated territorial investment, about integrated approach. And that time we had a discussion. And that time I was in a position of actually providing the opinions of cities towards the ministry. And I said, of course, we should use it for metropolitan areas and agglomerations, but at the same time, please think of using that in mountains areas. Think of these areas, these territories as a functional ones. That time the ministry was not prepared for this kind of discussion. But if the territorial investments, integrated investments, will remain in the regulations, I would use the momentum and I would actually ask for having ITI for these areas in more extent because it's needed. Some basic information about our metropolitan area. We are consisting of 184 municipalities. The Czech Republic has more than 6,000 municipalities. If I compare it with France, in France they are advanced with intermunicipal cooperation, with different associations that are working there already for 30, 40 years. For us it's something new. And our administration, because it's so distributed, is actually not suitable for effective cooperation on functional format. That's why for us it was important actually to somehow to make some groups of municipalities in order to have not so many partners to cooperate with, to work with on everyday basis. We succeeded in it because otherwise we wouldn't be, I would say, it wouldn't be manageable. You can see the number of units. We didn't have any metropolitan level given by the law. But despite of this fact, we have ITI. We are actually fulfilling the national strategies by doing ITI, but at the same time, we are looking not only at ITI as an instrument that enables us to get money from EU funding from different operational programs, but at the same time, we are discussing different other approaches, different other financial sources. You can see there are three metropolitan areas in the Czech Republic, including Prague, Brno, and Ostrava, and some other agglomerations, always concentrated around regional centers. We introduced integrated approach. This integrated approach we are implementing in 3 different ways. Lighthouse integrated solutions with significant projects, interconnected integrated solutions with projects that are somehow dependent on other projects in given territory, and network of integrated solutions. For example, we are investing in elementary schools, so infrastructure for education. There is a financial integration and there is an organizational integration. So for this second EU programming period, we have improved our way of integrated thinking. I think that is something that you can use in your territory as well, because this integrated approach is, I would say, according to my experience, very good way how to think of some complex challenges in territories. There is a process of establishing of Brno metropolitan area. As I have already said, we didn't have any legal basis. So it's informal structure that is in place. There are some information about the change between these 2 EU programming periods. three important elements. Again, you can then use it for your everyday praxis. We concentrated more. It means that we actually focused on the most important projects. Second, that we combine different funds, not only EU funding from different operational programs. In this regard, we are unique in the EU, but it's very good sign that already for the second EU program period, we actually defend, or we succeeded in discussion with ministries, and then they actually allocated some amount of money to ITI instrument. And the third important element that we actually we have broadened our perspective not only to ITI as an instrument, but to other different topics in the territory. For example, how to be more effective in terms of spatial planning, how to combat with suburbanization, how to improve the distribution of interest in terms of tourism. So these topics are not currently financed by EU, but they are definitely important for development of metropolitan area or agglomeration. They have the specific rural-urban linkage. Management structure is quite easy to understand. We have expert board and political board, and of course we have strategy. Strategy that is really implemented through the calls that we are actually issuing based on national calls or calls of managing authorities, and we have dedicated allocation of money that we should actually spend for this integrated solution for these projects. There is an allocation that you can then spend for these integrated solutions in Brno metropolitan area in both EU programming periods. You can see then the operational programs that are involved, which is, as I have already said, unique and very successful approach. There are some results from last EU programming period, last projects we implemented till the end 2023, including transport terminals, for example, or new tram lines. So these are concrete deliverables towards the sustainable mobility of the whole territory. Some examples that I wanted to share with you, for example, in terms of cybersecurity education, there is a unique solution combining a few different projects from a few different or several different operational programs, which is Czech Cybersecurity Center, or in terms of health, Hospice of St. Elizabeth. Of course, not everything is only in bright colors. We still have some remaining challenges. We have different attitudes of managing authorities towards ITI. We have to persuade them that this integrated approach managed by urban authorities in the area of agglomerations or metropolitan areas makes sense. We have to convince them that actually we know better, so it's bottom-up approach. What interventions have to have a priority? To prepare and implement such a complex instrument based on sophisticated strategy is time-consuming, it's clear. That's why, of course, there are delays in launching the calls, there are delays in implementation of projects. But if you are aware of these things from the very beginning, it's not so problematic. Coordination of many actors. I think it can be similar to your situation in your territories. There are actors from academia, business, NGOs, smaller municipalities, regional center, a center of the agglomeration or a metropolitan area, and all these actors have their different views. For us, it's very important that these working groups where they are not only for preparation of strategy, but they are here and we are using them for implementation as well. And of course, there is a national pressure on quick money drawing, but at the same time, we would like to see more long-term strategic projects because we see that they are essential and they can really bring a huge change. What are positive aspects so far? So I wanted to highlight a few elements on 2 slides, and of course you can read it, just to explain a few of them. On national level, ITI mechanism and some kind of autonomy in terms of managing of EU funds led to strengthening our role. And at the same time, we are much more aware of needs of our territory, of small municipalities that are around us, around our centers. We are addressing problems beyond the administrative boundaries. I'm always saying that actually administrative boundaries is a concept that come from the beginning of 20th century. And we are living in different contexts. That's why we have to adapt to these new conditions. And maybe this functional approach that is valid not only for urban areas, but also for mountain regions is the key and can be the solution. Exchange of experience between Czech agglomeration and metropolitan areas is very important. Since then, we started to have meetings 3-4 times a year, but at the same time, 2 or 3 times a month, we have calls that we are informing ourselves about current development, which is very important. Partnership principle is there, not only in implementation, but also during the preparation of strategy. Focus not only on ITI topics, not only EU funding, has been already highlighted, and this approach of integrated solutions is something that I think can be inspiring for you as well. To be honest, I would wish more. I would wish strategic projects, real strategic projects, composed of different smaller projects that would be financed through different financial sources, including operational programs, including municipal budget, including national grants, for example. But currently, it's not possible. All managing authorities have slightly different regulations, and of course, you have to look at these regulations and take care of being in line with them. At the same time, at least through ITI, we can combine the timing or timeline of launching a different course. That's why, for example, the first call goes for building an infrastructure from the Integrated Regional Operational Program, and then there is a call for example, Operational Program Employment Plus for creation some educational or social cohesion programs or projects. We are building mutual trust between urban and rural, and of course my colleagues that are responsible for this issue are not working only on ITI and implementing of integrated strategy. They have plenty of additional activities. We are quite active in cooperation with our municipalities in the way of, for example, a questionnaire among mayors, what they are thinking of city of Brno, and if they would like to cooperate more, and what topics are the most relevant for them. It's inspiring for Torino, because I know that Torino would like to adapt this approach in their context. We have Atlas of Brno Metropolitan Area, already the 2nd issue, not yet printed, but already in digital version. We have a different marketing activities. It's again about dissemination, not about dissemination abroad toward to international experts, but at the same time local people. That's why we produced exhibition last year for normal people to understand what the cooperation between Brno and surrounding municipality is about, what concrete projects it has brought, and what are perspectives for the future. We are active in ESPON, so again, inspiration for you. If you would like to have some knowledge, please use ESPON as a unique instrument or program of European Commission dedicated to research, so you can launch your specific topic as a targeted analysis, and if you are successful in the process of selection, you can then have some consortium of research institutions that would work on your topic and provide you with results. Very good instrument for us, for example, when we prepared for this EU programming period, we wanted to have targeted analysis about the cohesion policy and territorial dimension in different member states, and that was the result of one ESPON targeted analysis project. We are leader of Interreg Central Europe project, MESOC CE. We have Torino and Milano on board. We have Stuttgart, Berlin and Brandenburg, Warsaw, Budapest. So that's interesting projects. We are already in the second third of the projects with collection of almost 70 good practices that we can then share with you as well in terms of mobility, in terms of business promotion, in terms of energy, in terms of strategic planning, and so on. And last slide from my presentation and keynote. Here you can see actually how trust is a long-term process, and these are results from our last questionnaire. So when you look at the spots, willingness of municipalities to cooperate at the municipality level, definitely yes, or rather yes, is dominating in the answers, and evaluation of the cooperation of City of Brno and municipalities in past 5 years, you can see improving significantly or slightly, or still the same, is again really dominating. For us, it's the best result of our work, and very nice sign that we are doing important work and we are doing it in the proper way. Thank you for your attention. Gracias. Thank you.
Thank you, František. I know that people will have questions, but I'm also a little bit aware of time. So I'm wondering, I know that you are staying with us for the rest of the day. Would you be happy for people to come and find you and ask the questions to you directly? Audience, are we kind of happy with that approach?
There is one question.
One question, Enrique?
Or?
Yeah. Could you be very brief for me?
Very brief. Do you work with leader local action groups in the implementation of your ITI?
Perfectly brief, thank you.
I noted I should mention CLLD, and I forgot. Thank you for the thank you for this question. Honestly, to be honest, not so much. I would imagine to have better cooperation with them, because when we worked on preparation of strategy, we were in contact with local action groups. But during the implementation, and I would say on both sides, you don't have actually somehow pressure and time to sit down and spend one-day seminar with exchanging of challenges or achievements. But for that, we have different platform. This platform is called Regional Permanent Conference. And this Regional Permanent Conference is based on regional basis, and it takes place 4 times, 5 times a year. And that's a platform where we as ITI and all local action groups implementing CLLD are actually discussing and presenting their achievements and their needs. So it's organized, it's there. And before I started to work for Brno, I worked for Ministry of Regional Development for more than 5 years. And last 2 years I was responsible for the whole Czech region policy as an acting director. And that time we introduced this system of national standing conference and regional standing conferences, because we were aware, or I was aware of the fact that there has to be platform for cooperation and communication within integrated instruments and within regions.